Now, while she appreciated being an executive and so much about leadership management, and she actually went and got a master's in it, so she really liked it, but there was still something missing. She'd always been kind of interested in coaching. So without knowing exactly how things would unfold, she trusted her inner knowing and she enrolled in iPEC. And then right after module 2, she quit her full-time job, cold, just quit. And Desiree has been coaching ever since, and she now supports herself fully through her thriving coaching business. So Desiree is here to answer your most pressing questions about coaching, coach training, taking the leap into becoming a coach, and anything else along those lines that you've got in mind. You can ask her all of those questions, like how she got started, why she chose iPEC, what she's accomplished so far, and what's in store for her in the next chapter of her business. Now, with that in mind, I really do want to encourage everybody today to take advantage of our time with Desiree and ask questions that only she can answer about her experience and the wisdom that she has to share with us about becoming a successful coach. If you have logistical questions about the iPEC program, like how long it is, how does it work, all that stuff, those are great questions too. And you can get all of those types of questions answered directly by speaking with an iPEC admissions coach. And we'll put the link as to how to make an appointment to speak with an admissions coach in the chat box. Now, speaking of the chat box, this is how you guys can ask a question. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can just type that question right into the comment section, and the person that you can't see behind the scenes who's running all of our technology, the wonderful Umbretta, is going to be able to see that question, and she's going to send it to me so that I can ask Desiree. If you're joining us on the Zoom link, you have two options. There's either a little folder and it says Q&A on it, and you can type your question right in there, or there's a thing that looks like a little chat bubble and you can type your question in there. I can see both of those. So if you're joining us on Zoom, just type your question in either of those places. If you're joining us on Facebook, type it right into the comment section and Umbretta will be able to send it to me. Okay. Now, also, please feel free to share with us where you are joining us from. iPEC has locations in the Netherlands, the UK, Canada, and the USA. And in 2019, we're going to be expanding into Germany. So please let us know where you're calling in from, just because it's always fun to see globally where everybody is actually located. So now, last little bit of housekeeping before we get on to actually speaking with Desiree. If you see me looking away from Desiree, it's because I'm trying to also read your questions. So some people find that a little bit distracting, and I just wanted to let you guys know that if you see me looking over like this, it's because I'm reading your questions and getting them teed up so that we can actually ask Desiree what you want to know. So without further ado, please feel free to get those questions typed in there, because today's call is all about you and what you want to know from Desiree. So if you don't ask any questions, it's going to be a really boring call. So Desiree, it is so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather, so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to share a little bit about my journey.
Fabulous. Well, while we wait for those questions to come in, would you mind sharing with us what made you just, decide to become a coach, and maybe a little bit about why you chose iPEC as your coach training program?
Yeah, so I really, I went through my master's program around leadership and strategic management, and I led people pretty much all throughout my career. And so I always had an interest in helping people grow and work with people. And I just felt that I really couldn't do that anymore in the corporate environment. There were too many, competing priorities. So actually, my mom is a coach as well. And so I've always had an interest in coaching. And once I completed my master's degree, I just kind of asked myself, so what's next? What am I going to do next? And so I started looking around for coaching schools, and I connected with a coaching school. And I had an interview with them, and they actually interviewed me, and they were ready to enroll me. And there was just something about it that just didn't click for me. And so then I found iPEC, and I saw kind of where iPEC operates, and that's a global program. I have a global background. So I said, why not? I'm just going to give it a try. And I connected with an admissions coach, and it just clicked. I just knew it was the right place. And without further ado, I signed up. And I think within 2 days, everything was said and done. And 2 months later, I sat in my first module.
Wow. I had no idea that your mom also had experience in coaching and as a coach. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. We do have some questions rolling in. Also, just wanted to say a quick shout out because we've got people telling us where they're calling in from. We have Andy in Tucson, Arizona. Cora's in Belize. Hi, Cora. Les is in Atlanta. And it looks like Georgie in Colorado is saying, Desiree, what is your niche or specialty coaching area? And how did you come to decide on that?
That is a great question. So my niche is really around leadership and career development. And how I came to decide on that, it wasn't a straightforward thing where I came out of the mud or out of the training and I said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And so I had a rough idea of what it was going to be. But I also have to say I rebranded a few times. I went through the motions. I went through the changes until I really continued to work with people. And as I continued to work with people, I really learned about what is it that, where's my zone of genius really? And so once I went through that, I figured that it was really the leadership, which I knew that just based on my master's, but really in what sense and what form. And it's the leadership development and the career development, just really getting in alignment with yourself and showing up as the leader that you authentically want to be.
Awesome. I think that's really insightful too, is like, kind of the general umbrella, but then you actually have to niche it down underneath that umbrella even more. And I love how you use the words, what's your zone of genius? That's so great. I love that.
Yeah, it's really, as you go through the coaching journey, you see, you experience situations where you say, oh, this is really great and I love this. And there's other situations that you experience where you say, oh, I don't know about this, if this is really. So it totally makes a difference for you in those environments and the areas that you thrive in, and to really listen to those and to follow kind of, yes, you're in a zone of genius.
Now, Jennifer and Nazira are both asking really similar questions, and I think it pertains to exactly kind of what you were talking about too. They're both asking questions around how you transitioned into being a full-time coach. So Jennifer's is, first, Jennifer wanted to say thank you so much for being here to share. And she's asking, what steps did you take to make the transition? And Nazira is asking, what was your biggest challenge from learning about coaching to becoming a coach? So I think those two questions kind of pair really nicely together.
Yeah. So I think in terms of planning, I got to be honest, I didn't do any planning. And if not that I feel that I made a mistake, I just think if I had a second chance to do this, I would probably do it a little bit different. So it was a learning opportunity for me. But I literally came out of Knot 2, and I knew that where I wasn't the place I needed to be. And so I had a long conversation with my husband, and he said, I absolutely support whatever you want to do. So if that's what you want to do, go for it. And it took me a few days to just but then I got into a situation where I just knew, okay, I just need to follow that. And I just out of the blue, I just wrote up my resignation, and there I was 6 weeks later. I had my last day at work, and then started the coaching business pretty much right out of the gate. As far as the challenge and learning, I think at iPEC, we get great tools in terms of learning about ourselves and what are kind of the things to be aware of, and learning also that every challenge that we are facing is an opportunity. But I think the biggest challenge for me was really to transition out of the corporate environment into now my own business. Now I'm the finance person, I'm the marketing person, I'm the coach, I'm doing all of those things, and learning how to keep that all together, and then also really defining my niche was really what was most challenging for me. But again, it was a great journey in terms of the challenge, and I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about my ideal client.
That's key too, right? Learning, more about your ideal client, who you want to
Mhm.
spend your day with, basically.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Nikki is asking, she's saying, what about the module made you ready to leave your job?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was just so much awareness that I gained about myself and who I am and where I needed to be, that going to work was just not the place anymore. I just didn't feel fulfilled anymore. It wasn't, I went there, I did my job, but it wasn't something where I was thriving, where I said, oh, this is awesome, I want to be here. So I think just learning more about myself and my self-awareness was what really made what really made the difference for me.
So we have another question here from Elizabeth, and this one I'm not 100% sure you can answer, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Elizabeth is wanting to know, how is this coaching program different or better than similar programs? I'm unclear about what differentiates iPEC. The only reason I'm throwing that one out there, because Elizabeth, that actually is more of a question for our admissions coaches to do the comparing and contrasting. And something that might come in handy to you is we actually provide you with a free consumer guide called the 9 Key Considerations for Choosing the Right Coaching School. When you download that, the last page is actually a comparison chart for you to go ahead and be able to fill out, comparing us to the other coach programs that you are considering. Because iPEC might not be the right program for you. There are other programs out there that might be a better fit for you. iPEC is a school, and it's fine if we're not the best fit for absolutely everybody out there. But I did want to go ahead and ask Desiree, I wanted to throw this question out to you, because you did have a conversation with another coach training program that you were really considering, and then you decided to come to iPEC. So from your perspective, what do you think makes iPEC really different and sets us apart?
I think it was just initially just having the conversation with the admissions coach. There was an interest in me personally and why I wanted to become a coach. It wasn't not so much a journal worksheet of, do I tick the boxes and do I fit into this program? It was really more centered around who I am and what I wanted to achieve with this. And I think additionally to that, it was also just the thoroughness of the program. I liked the way it was set up, that I was able to spend 3 weekends with each 3 months in between. And there was continuous engagement. Every week we had a call. We had the ability to have peer coaching clients and peer coaches. So this mix of really being able to start doing this right away, plus the thoroughness of the training, plus the accreditation through the ICF. I think those were all factors that played a role for me. Plus, ultimately, I have to say, that is just me. That's just how I'm wired. I love the personal touch, and that just kind of sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, I agree. I had a similar experience. Having it be where it is that personal touch where you're like, oh, they actually care. Yes. I think that does kind of set us apart too. Cora is wanting to know, she says, do you think your master's adds to your credibility? Yes. What about for those of us without? So I guess it'd be, do you think it adds to your credibility? And if somebody doesn't have something like that, how do you think that would impact them?
I don't really think it adds to the credibility, because honestly, once you get out there and you start having a network, it pretty much all works through referrals. I honestly cannot say, whenever you enter a classroom at iPEC, you see people from all sorts and walks of lives, which makes this program so great. And it really does not matter whether you have a master's degree or not. It's all about the connections that you make, how you connect, and then how you help people move forward. So I really wouldn't say that this is a showstopper at all. So if you want to be a coach, absolutely go for it.
Awesome. Okay. Jake in Toronto is asking, how much do you read self-improvement material? And are there any books that you would recommend? It's a really good question, because I think coaches as a whole, we're constantly learning and curious and growing.
Yes, absolutely. I do actually read quite a bit, and I think it's very important just to also stay on top of what's happening. I focus really on leadership, so that goes into the personal growth. And I do read quite a bit. There's, I think, one book that I recommend to almost all my clients, and that's Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's all about how you think about the challenges that you face, and just thinking about it in terms of this is good or bad, but to think, what is my learning opportunity in this? And that really was a great book for me and a great learn. So if I'm being asked to recommend one book, then that's absolutely it.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. There are a lot of different business building type questions, and so I'm going to kind of cram a bunch of them together, especially because one of the things you said was about how you connect, and that networking piece and the referral piece. So a lot of these questions have to do with getting clients. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest mystery as we go into coaching, into our coaching work. And I have to say, I have spent countless hours just thinking, how am I going to get a client? How is this going to work? And once I started this is probably going to sound a little bit different, but this is truly the truth. When I started letting go of attaching myself to the outcome, so basically thinking I have to get this client no matter what, that's when I really started to see some traction. I really started to see some success. And we also have to realize that we won't get every client. And it's just like Heather mentioned in terms of iPEC. iPEC is maybe not the right school for everyone. And so are you not the right coach for everyone. And learning that that's actually quite okay, and that that's part of the journey, it takes a while, and it's something that we just have to work through, and we learn as we go. But then once you really identify who your ideal client is, then you say, okay, now I know this is really where I can help people move forward, and this is the only place I want to be. And so if I meet someone that really doesn't fit into all of that, then that's quite okay as well. So I think that's really the key to that. As far as how did I get my first client, quite trivial. I actually got my first client not through my network, but through LinkedIn Profinder. And and then I started working with some coaching platforms. And so that's how I started to get myself out there. And it's not the traditional way of doing it, but it's absolutely worked for me.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways, because that's another piece I'm seeing, people wanting to know exactly how you did it. And I think it is important to know, to understand, like you just said, that's one way of doing it. There's so many different ways of doing it. So it really is whatever works best for you, but finding your ideal client sounds like it was really the key for your success.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that, I had to take quite a few no's because I wasn't clear on who my ideal client was. And when I got clear of who that was, then it's when everything started to fall into place. But again, the no's were a learning opportunity for me to learn who my ideal client is.
Yeah.
And yes, absolutely. To your point, one size does not fit all, especially when it comes to coaching. So, you might have different ways of finding clients, and that's perfectly fine. It's just going to be what you're comfortable with. And maybe it's the personal networking, maybe it's reaching out to friends and family. It just all depends on really where you are at, how you're connected, and what works for you.
And do you use because you do travel internationally, just for anybody who missed that in the intro, Desiree works with people globally because she is a world traveler. So she lives in the USA, she lives in Europe. I believe she mentioned she's going back and forth to Malta a lot right now, which I'm completely jealous. But do you change how you find those clients depending on where you are, or do you just allow the flow to happen? Like, how do you do that internationally?
Yeah, so I still, get a lot of clients through the US, and also through a coaching platform that I'm affiliated with, that, matches coaches with clients. And so that's still coming. But now that I'm going to Europe quite a bit back and forth, I'm also going to the small little Mediterranean island of 500,000 residents. And so I was just doing my research and looking around, and somehow I found a lady that has a success web page, and I just reached out to her. And because I'm, like I was talking about, when you detach yourself from the outcome, so whether you get it or not really doesn't matter. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, would love to talk to you. I'm a coach and I came here. And she said, absolutely, would love to talk to you. And we got connected. And I'm now getting to write articles for her. We're offering workshops. So sometimes it's just, you might see an opportunity and just go for it. And that might work out, it might not, but you absolutely have to adapt to where you're at. And that probably wouldn't have worked in the US for me, but it worked here because it's rather intimate.
Honestly, it sounds fun.
Yes, that's a lot of fun. It's awesome.
You're not attached to the outcome. You're just looking at opportunities and letting things come to you. That I can't think of anything that, sounds more fun than doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges, right? Especially when we quit a job and we make a certain income, then all of a sudden you have to adjust to the fact that now you don't have that regular paycheck coming in. And oftentimes that creates so much stress for us. And it did for me too. I mean, absolutely. But then once you break through that and break through those first initial clients, that just thankfully all falls into place as well.
Now, Marisol is asking, what's the energetic component of iPEC? I've heard there's an emphasis on tuning into energy, and I'm curious how that works. So I'm actually going to rephrase that a little bit because, Marisol, the way your question is composed, it would be more appropriate for an admissions coach to answer it. So I'm just going to tweak it a little bit about how do you utilize the iPEC's modality of the core energy coaching with your clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the core energy coaching is all about coaching really the energy. So depending on what the person says, saying, oh, I just hate the situation that I'm in right now, right? So coach that versus the actual situation. And I've found that very, very helpful because it helps people to take a step back and to really see opportunities and the toughest challenges versus, and this is where we talk about energy in at iPEC, versus when you are in these situations where you feel just trapped and stuck, you actually can't be productive and can't move forward. So really pulling people out of that, take a look from almost the outside a little bit, and then get them to see the opportunities. That's really how the core energy coaching works. And it works especially in corporate environments very well because we're oftentimes faced with corporate politics, things that we can't influence. So to look at the things that we actually have control over and then work through those opportunities is really, really helpful. Okay.
I'm probably going to mispronounce this name, so I'm just going to apologize straight up front. I think it's Lemuel is asking, what did you get from the iPEC program that you would not have been able to do on your own?
Wow, that's a good question.
Right?
I would say the whole thing. Just learning so much more about myself, learning how I show up, learning how, where I miss opportunities for productivity, learning what's important to me, learning what's in alignment with me. Those are really the things that I don't think I could have figured out without the program. Because we have no awareness around that. Maybe a little bit, but really I had no awareness around that before I entered the program. So I think everything that was done in the program was very helpful for me. And, there are things that, like with everything, that work better for me than other things. But none of the things that I would have ever said were a waste of time or not worth my time or anything like that. So I think all throughout, there are so many opportunities to learn about yourself, and it's a beautiful journey.
The question has scrolled past because they're coming in a little quick, but I know somebody out there had asked, what are tools that you're still using that you learned in iPEC?
Without getting too technical, obviously, pretty much all the tools I got, I'm still using. And if somebody asked about the personal development, part of my personal development is that the books and the materials that I got from iPEC, they are right here over on a shelf over my desk, and they come out every so often. And I reread some of the stuff and just make sure that I stay current on some of these tools that maybe might not come to me as natural. But all of the tools, I would say, are incredibly helpful in just getting people to see opportunities and to move forward.
Yeah, I remember when I got my first coaching client, I had all of my manuals, all of my worksheets, everything, I sat on the floor and I had it all around me because I was really nervous with my first client.
Yes, I can relate to that.
Well, and with that in mind, Andy is asking about getting your first client. How did it go, and what did you learn from that experience?
Oh, I learned a ton from that experience. It went well because what it essentially taught me was to get out of my head and to really listen to what the person is saying, and to really pick up on some of as we talked, the core energy pieces. I think that's also one of the biggest pieces as we transition to being a coach, is to get out of our heads, and all these tools that we learn. They're incredibly helpful, but when you are actually coaching, it's all about listening to the person. And so, yeah, sorry, I missed. What was the question?
Oh, no, it's fine. Andy was wanting to know, how did it go and what did you learn?
So my learnings were really that, aside from really following the client's journey, so making sure that the client gets the room to talk whatever they want to talk about, it's still good for me to have a good blueprint of what is it that we're going to cover in these 12 sessions, and just kind of checking in with the client. Is this still on track? Do you have anything else you want to talk about? So really having a general outline of what I was going to do, because the first question was, so how are we going to go through this program? So then I had to kind of improvise a little bit there. But as I grew in that, I learned that, and those are pieces that you learn. So other than that, it's a process that is still personalized, that you can't say, I'm picking tool A, B, and C in this session, and picking tool D, E, and F in this session. You really got to go with whatever the client brings to you.
You are so right, because every client is going to be different, and they're going to show up. And even, if you think you've got this one client dialed in, then they'll show up for a session like just a completely different person. And you're like, oh, okay, we're going to go there.
Yep, absolutely. So there's an interesting piece to having a framework and an outline, and still giving the client the room to talk and to share whatever is going on for them and what is important for them.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to whether you guys choose iPEC or a different program, find a program that is going to be able to teach you to coach anyone, anywhere, anytime on any subject. Because even though Desiree has a specialty and she has an ideal client that she works with, that client might come into that session with something completely outside of that area, and she's still able to coach on it. So yeah, I think that's really important. And Andy has another great question. Andy is asking, how long, and I'm also going to ask, I'm going to add on how many times. So how long and how many times did you go through the rebranding process until you found your genius zone and settled on your ideal client?
In my mind, countless times. On paper, about 4 times.
That makes sense.
Yes. So just because as you continue to explore with clients and you think, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I should look into this, maybe that. And, oh, this actually all fits my background. Obviously don't always put that into on paper, but yes, I did at least 3 or 4 times on paper rebrand and change my web page and all of those things, and they become less and less important as you continue to grow as a coach.
And we've got a question coming in from Facebook that is asking, do you think having a certification, or how has having a certification impacted how you price your services? And just so you guys know, with iPEC, you're going to become certified professional coach and energy leadership index master practitioner. So you get the 2. Do you think that that's had an impact, like actually being a certified coach rather than comparing yourself to people out there who just call themselves a coach, but they actually haven't been through a training program?
I think so. Yes. There's a lot of learning happening out there right now in terms of what is actually a certified coach and what is a coach supposed to do. And the accreditation that I got allowed me to also then build my hours to get accredited through ICF, which, as you work with corporate clients, is really helpful to have. Other people might argue, well, I do health and wellness stuff. It's really not that important. So it also depends in kind of which way you want to go. But if ICF is important for you, but I think the accreditation definitely, no matter where you are at, is really valuable and helpful.
And I actually have something, Umbretta is going to be posting in the Facebook chat and in the Zoom chat link an article that was done by PayScale. We have no affiliation with PayScale. We actually didn't even know this article was being done. We didn't know it was done. One of our grads had to bring it to us, and we were like, oh, that's cool. It has to do with HR professionals, but the article is all about not just coach training, but specifically iPEC's coach training, which we were just like, wow, I mean, they really narrowed it down. Certified HR professionals experience a 28% pay increase by specifically having iPEC's certification. So I think that's relevant to the question of, pricing your services, somebody who's certified versus somebody who's just calling themselves a coach. So, if you get your ICF credential, if you get coach training, as pertains to this PayScale article, if you specifically get iPEC's coach training, yes, it does add to the ability to increase those prices in your business if you so choose.
And I also want to add that I am so glad I went through this training, because I'm facing some of these conversations with my clients that if I wasn't trained the way I was, I wouldn't know what to do. So I think that it is, very, very valuable, aside from a PayScale piece, just in terms of how you put yourself out there, how you work with your clients. All those tools that we've been talking about are absolutely valuable as you work with your clients. So
you are so right, because it's completely different from going to a happy hour with your friends and, everybody's like, oh, it's so great to talk to you, versus somebody's actually putting money in your hand for a paid service, and they're coming to you for help in making really big decisions in their life. So when Desiree is talking about that, I do hope everybody's really hearing and understanding that whether you choose iPEC or not, please go someplace that helps you feel really confident in helping that other person make those decisions, because they need to make that decision. That's not something that you, the coach, does. Mm-hmm. So Tristan is asking, has there ever been a time, I love this question, by the way, has there ever been a time in owning your own coaching business that you felt like you felt in your last days at your job? You had mentioned that you were just going through the motions in your last days at work. Are there times of boredom or unfulfillment in owning your own business? That's a great question.
Yes, that's an awesome question. There are days that are extremely challenging, yes, but I've not experienced a day where I wasn't fulfilled. So yes, there are absolutely days where you think, oh my God, what did I do? How did I get here? What was it? What was I thinking? But then I get to talk to my clients and I think, yes, this is awesome. And I know exactly why I'm here. So no, I've never experienced unfulfillment, just the natural frustration that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Right. Because as you said, you're everything now. You're the marketer, you're the coach, you're the finance person. Yeah, that makes total sense. We have another question here from April. And April is wanting to know, what ratio of your clients do you see in person versus on the phone versus video? Like, first of all, I guess the right question would be, how do you prefer to coach? Is it video, by phone, in person? And then what are the ratios?
So I totally prefer video because it's still personable, but it allows, we oftentimes just, it depends on however you structure your business, but we coach for 1 hour. And to, depending on where you live, go through traffic to get there, spend the 1 hour with the client, go back to wherever you need to get. Eventually, maybe the client also has to sit in traffic. So there's a huge investment in time that you have when you meet with clients on a personal basis. And plus, I'm traveling quite a bit, so this always allows me to connect with my clients wherever I'm at. It doesn't matter. Wi-Fi exists almost everywhere now. And I find it that my clients are more engaged when they can do that. The one-off, I have met with them personally. Sometimes people like that, and I'm totally open to do that, to maybe kick something off or to, at the end to wrap something up. But generally, also, I find that most everybody is really fine with doing the video calls. Sometimes people ask for a phone call, and that's totally fine. Okay, totally fine as well. I find it a little bit harder because I can't see faces, I can't see expressions, which I do like to see, and the video gives a little bit of more of a personal touch.
It's interesting because you prefer being able to see people, and I actually prefer only by phone. In fact, I charge more if somebody wants to video or do in person. To me, that's a VIP session because I like to keep my eyes closed. So it's really interesting. So everybody out there, I hope what you're getting from this is there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's however you're comfortable doing it, because you can design your business however you want to.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Lee is asking, have you ever needed to decline a client? And if yes, why?
I have. And it was because there was no alignment for me. Somebody reached out to me and wanted to get some business coaching, and I might be able to help you in finding your vision and the mission statement and all of those things, but I'm not the right person to tell you what structure of business you should have or anything like that. So this is where some of the confusion comes in terms of what a coach really does. Mm-hmm. And so when there's no alignment, or when I feel that, on a personal level, we don't click with everybody, and that's totally fine. So when that happens, then I occasionally have to decline, and that's okay, because it makes it less painful for me and for the client, right? To have these sessions when it's so on such a personal level, to do it with somebody that you don't click with is not good for you, and is not good for the client either.
I'm glad you mentioned about things that aren't necessarily coaching, because I'm seeing a lot of questions come in having to do with, do we offer graduate psychology classes? No, we don't. We focus on coaching. A lot of questions too are like, how much do you need to know about psychology? So I just want to be really clear. This is about coaching. And so Umbretta, if you have there's a white paper that we have on what coaching is and what it isn't. If you have the link to that, if you could post that. If you don't, maybe you have the link to the roadmap. We have a video that talks about coaching and what it is and what it isn't. And in the video for the roadmap, we also talk about the ICF as well. So questions having to do with the ICF might be covered in there too. So if your questions are pertaining to those types of things, please take a look at the links that Umbretta is going to be posting for you, because I think that that's probably going to be more helpful for the people that are asking those types of questions. But I also wanted to ask kind of the flip side of that question of, have you ever declined a client? Have you ever accepted a client that is outside of your specific niche?
I have. And that was exactly the same scenario. It was somebody wanting to build their business, but we did really the self-awareness, energy type of work in terms of where are you missing opportunities, where where are opportunities for you to create more productivity. And then I helped through the vision and mission process of that. But I stayed clear of anything that was around business setup, business law, business, right, finance type of stuff. So I made that very clear from the beginning.
So Louise is asking, and by the way, great answer. I didn't mean to just gloss over that. The reason I asked that, everybody out there, is when you say no to somebody, you also open up space for that yes to come in. And I wanted to make sure everybody understands, you don't have to, just because you define a niche that you're coaching in, you don't have to be like, no, you are outside of my niche, my specialty, I will not help you, right? You can help everybody. If you click with them, great. But just like Desiree is saying, make sure that you do define what it is that you're going to be helping them with. And with that in mind, Luis is asking a great question. Hi, Desiree, can you give us an example of how you define successful outcomes with a client and are able to qualify your, oh, I love this, and are able to qualify your no doubt brilliant impact? Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. So first of all, success is defined by the client. What is success to me might not necessarily be success to the client. So what we do at the beginning of the session, we kind of set, or at the beginning of the engagement, we set an overall goal that we want to achieve, and what does actually success look like for the client. So that is my biggest goal, to make sure that my clients get to their own version of success. But for me, really, what is success? Success is to see my clients have some of those breakthrough moments and really see them, thrive in situations where they before thought, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to get through that. That is really my personal version of success. And everybody, as I said, has a different version of success. But it really is not that important when you look to support the person to reach their own success.
I love that. And I think it ties in really nicely with a bunch of questions that I see coming in. A lot of people are asking about, how do you do your pricing? Like, when did you first start out? Now, are you raising your price? Also, how do you do it? Meaning, do you do it by monthly? Do you do packages? Do you do one-offs? And of course, in my mind, it's like, is it 30 minutes? Is it 45? Is it 90? Like, all of these like business-oriented type of questions around pricing. And I think it ties in nicely, because we were talking about, successful outcomes are defined by the person, but like, what's your idea of success? So maybe you could speak a little bit about kind of the nuts and bolts of pricing and, what iPEC, the business tools that iPEC includes too, to kind of get you started at least.
Yeah, I think what's really helpful, iPEC has a quick start program, and now, lucky for all of those of you that are going to sign up, you can also get a success coach, which is awesome. It didn't exist when I went through the program.
I know, me neither.
So that part of the program will help you in kind of narrowing it down. I really want to stay clear of giving a number, because you might be in a different niche, you might be in a different area, you might be you might be serving different clients. So it's really hard for me to just put out a number there. But I can say that I do have different ways of charging my clients. So I have a Kickstart program that's just 4 weeks. So if people don't want to really commit, they don't have to. So there's that 4-week program just to test it out with an option to extend. Then I have a VIP version where there's some extras in there in terms of, unlimited email access and stuff like that. So that's obviously reflected in the price. And then I also just launched a monthly membership, and I want to just try that out. Because I'm now the finance and the marketing person, I get to make that decision that I just want to play with that and see how that works out, whether that's a good thing or not so much. So, but yeah, so. Depending on what your niche is and depending on what your ideal client is, there's so many ways to do this. What I've learned is to package something for somebody who is not quite sure about coaching yet, and then give them the opportunity to experience that. And then also have the VIP package for those people that are really willing to go in and spend that money as well.
I think that gives you the opportunity to see whether or not you guys are a good fit, instead of, I think sometimes new coaches think, I have to get this person for like an 8-month contract, right? It's like, you might not like working with that person, like, because it's a 2-way street. So.
Absolutely. Yes. It's absolutely a 2-way street. And I have to be honest, I missed it at the beginning. I was like, I got to get all these people. No, I don't. It's absolutely a 2-way street.
Fabulous. Wonderful. I say fabulous and wonderful because so often I think that those are things that are glossed over, especially for people who are considering becoming a coach and for new coaches out there, so I'm really, really glad that Desiree is letting you guys know, like, you don't have to get everybody that's out there that's available. You don't have to say yes every single time. It's wonderful, wonderful insights. Lee is asking, oh, wait, sorry, it scrolled past. I'm sorry, Lee. I'm going to go to another question. It's scrolling a little too fast for me. How dramatically do you feel that your client situations, challenges, and successes affect you and who you are in everyday life? And there's a thank you for giving us your time today on that one. And that is from, I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry. I want to say it's Robon. So Robon is asking, how dramatically do you feel that your client situations, challenges, and successes affect you and who you are in your everyday life? Great question.
Awesome question. There's an awesome concept, and I hope I'm not taking away too much, but there's an awesome concept that I learned through iPEC, which is I'm the teacher and the student at the same time. And that is so, so true. I learn every day through my clients, the situations that they face, how they face them, and how they actually approach some of these things, right? That is the beauty in coaching, is to really be able to kind of get people to think in a different way and approach things in a different way. So I absolutely learn. And first and foremost, what I most learn from my clients is their courage. They have so much courage to put themselves out there, to try something differently, to push themselves out of the comfort zone. And I like to just take a couple of minutes at night and just reflect on the client journeys for the day and think, oh, that's pretty awesome. I wonder how that would work for me. And oftentimes that even pushes me to do something differently or push myself out of the comfort zone.
I think that's awesome. I love that. And what I heard in that too was it helps you be courageous, it sounds like, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So our clients are awesome teachers at the same time.
Getting some questions, just like nuts and bolts kinds of things of, like one of the questions was, does being a full-time coach pay well? And like, I know that you travel all around the world. You are no longer geographically tied down. Some other nuts and bolts questions about like health insurance and just being an entrepreneur. Maybe you could just kind of speak to more generally, because of course, everybody's situation is going to be different, but how do you tackle those types of questions of like, how do you go from here to there, like literally geographically, USA to Europe to this to that, and handling the health insurance types questions and the transferring of the funds types questions?
That's a great question, because I'm going through that every day right now. does coaching pay well? I think that's something that is tied to your own personal situation. And obviously it's not going to happen right out of the gate, but eventually. And also, what does well mean for you, right? Well could mean something for me and could mean something differently for you. So I really want to stay clear from that. But yes, you can make a living from coaching. How do I do that? I'm very fortunate that I have a husband that is working globally, so we have a global health insurance policy that I get to be part of. So that worked out great for me. But there are so many ways as an entrepreneur you can get health insurance if that's not an option. It's certainly a challenge in the US in terms of cost, but again, there are ways to do that, and I highly recommend that you check into all those things before you do what I did and kind of taking the leap of faith without really having a plan. And in terms of transferring funds, there are great global bank accounts that don't cost anything. Everything is kind of starting to be so virtual that there are ways to do that without even incurring any costs. So I have to say one of the biggest things that I learned through iPEC is there is a possibility wherever you go, and it's all about finding that for you and whatever that looks like. So I would absolutely say yes to all of those things. You just have to see what works for yourself.
I love that, because I think sometimes people think that it's this great big challenge when actually it's just a series of little things, and if you think about it, it's kind of like owning your first car, right? Well, first you had to get a driver's license, and then you had to buy the car, and then, oh goodness, you need insurance, and then you have to go stand in line at the DMV, and like same thing with anything in your life. It's like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And Desiree, there was nothing wrong with the way that you did it by just being like, I quit.
No, there was absolutely nothing wrong. It was just a series of many learnings. Many learnings and things that I'm now aware of that I probably would do a little differently if I had a second opportunity. But I'm still alive, I'm still breathing. So whatever it is that we're, facing, there's always an opportunity to get through that and to make it work for yourself.
Yeah. And for I'm seeing some more questions come in regarding what being paid well is defined by people. And you touched on it earlier about iPEC includes a success coach. That's something that I would encourage everybody out there to work on with your success coach. What does being paid well mean for you? Desiree is absolutely right. It's different things to different people. And so that's one of the reasons why iPEC does include a success coach, so that you can actually define what does success look like for you? For Desiree, it's being able to have clients globally. For me, it's being able to, work from home and not wear shoes. I'm wearing slippers right now. That's a big part of my success, right? So working with a success coach and defining what that looks like for you, I think is really, really important, because it is different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we have time for just one more question. And you guys have been awesome, by the way. These are such great questions, and I'm so sorry if we weren't able to get to absolutely all of them. But also I see some people are saying that they're going to have to drop off soon. So please know there will be a recording of this sent to you. Anybody who registered for the call will get a recording of this. Tristan is asking a great question. And the question is, I recently hired a coach. Good for you, Tristan. I recently hired a coach to help me through this process of changing careers and becoming a certified coach. How important do you think it is to have a coach to be a coach?
Absolutely important. I had a coach before I became a coach, and I still have a coach. So absolutely important, because we know a lot about ourselves, and we know a lot about these tools, but it's like when you're in it, sometimes you don't see it, because we're all humans. We all have emotions. We all feel a certain way about things. So having a coach to also move us through our own barriers is absolutely helpful. And it's an investment that's absolutely worth it.
I totally agree. I have a coach as well. I think every great coach has a great coach. Just in the last few minutes that we have here, Desiree, would you mind sharing with everybody if they wanted to hire you or work with you or connect with you in some way, shape, or form? Can you maybe just share with everybody how they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share my email address in the chat box. You can certainly reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any other questions that I might not have answered. So anything you want to know, happy to help, happy to just kind of share about my personal journey. That, again, I do want to say this is going to be your own personal journey. So for me to share, I'm happy to do that. Just know also that this is going to be your own journey, and that's going to unfold for you probably quite differently than for me. So, but I had the opportunity to connect with people from iPEC before I signed up with iPEC, and I'm very thankful for that. So I definitely want to give that back here. So I will type in my email address into the chat box, and for anyone who wants to reach out, please do.
And you had mentioned too that you are offering a subscription service as well, right, for coaching. So would you mind also letting people know how they can become a member of your coaching business? Because again, just like we just talked about, as Tristan had asked about, every great coach has a great coach. And so we're talking to one right now. So, and it sounds like she has a membership service. So it might be something you want to take advantage of.
Yes. So my fourth rebranding is just about to be finished, and my website is going to be up in just a few more days.
Exciting. Congratulations.
Yes. So, and I'm done. I'm no more. That's it. So, if you are interested, please email me, and we'll just, I just really prefer to have a personal conversation versus just you signing up for something. Let's just have a conversation, and let's just, have a chat and see what comes out of it. So no strings attached. At any point in time you need anything, please feel free to reach out.
That is an incredibly generous offer, and it was just really, really nice of you to do that. Thank you very, very much. And I hope everybody got at least some of their questions answered, some of their concerns addressed. I know for me, a big takeaway out of this is, one of the kind of overarching themes that I heard Desiree talking about is there's really no one way to do it right. She's on her fourth rebranding, but she quit her job after module 2 and immediately started just doing this full time and is supporting herself full time. So it doesn't matter how you go about it. You can be successful at this. I think the big overarching theme is just go for it. Just follow your heart's path and allow yourself to be open to those opportunities. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Desiree, so much for your time and your wisdom. And thank you everybody out there for taking time out of your day to be here with us and for your great questions. We really, really appreciate it. Literally could not have had this call without you. So
thank you, everyone. Thank you for those great questions. And I wish you all the best in your personal success journey. And whatever that might look like with iPEC, without iPEC, coach, new coach, it is all possible. So absolutely go for it.
Thank you. And if you do want to speak with an admissions coach, feel free to reach out to us. It's not a sales conversation. It's very similar to this. So feel free to make an appointment to speak with an admissions coach and find out whether or not iPEC is the best fit for you. So thanks again, everybody. And as always, I wish you a life and profession of your choosing. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.